Hi, my name is James Shepard, and back in January, I made 4 predictions about the merchant services industry and how it would play out in 2017. And I'm making this video today because I want to update you on those 4 predictions, and specifically about 3 of them that are well on their way to coming true. And I think that these are going to have a huge impact on the merchant services industry and on your portfolio, whether you're a processor, an ISO, or an individual sales representative. So let's jump in and talk about these 3 predictions, how they're changing, and how this change is going to happen to your portfolio and what you need to do about it. So the first prediction that I made was that the Durbin Amendment would be rolled back or repealed during 2017. And so I referenced, if you go to our ccsalespro.com website and click on the blog article, there's a couple links there I included to different posts. One of them is on thehill.com, which is really the #1 kind of policy publication in Washington, D.C. It's kind of a nonpartisan publication that most congressmen and senators subscribe to. And the title of it, if my memory serves, was "It's Time to Repeal Dick Durbin's Corporate Giveaway." And so the Durbin Amendment is not very popular in Washington right now. There's another one I linked to on Yahoo that actually did a survey. I think it was an NBC survey that showed that a majority of Americans, whether they're Democrat, Republican, or Independent, all believe that the government should stay out of the business of regulating interchange. So I think the writing is on the wall, and I think the Durbin Amendment is definitely going to be repealed. When Congress is going to get around to it, I don't know, but I definitely think it will be repealed this year. So what does that mean for you? Well, first of all, let's talk about what the Durbin Amendment actually is. The Durbin Amendment regulated check card transactions, okay? And it regulated them to the tune of reducing the cost of processing check cards by about 40%. This is your PIN debit, and this is your check cards that you're running as credit. But if they're linked to a bank account, if it's a bank card, then those bank cards were regulated by the federal government as long as it was with one of the big mega banks. And so there's about 85% of the bank cards out there that are regulated by the Durbin Amendment, 15 to 20% that are not. But the net effect was that it took the cost of processing these check cards for a merchant down about 40%. Now, if that gets repealed, there are going to be some major shockwaves. I'll give you one of them right off the bat that you might not have thought of, and that's going to be Square, okay? And other companies like that have really disrupted the industry with their flat rate pricing model. Well, guess what? That flat rate pricing model is not going to be looking very good when the Durbin Amendment gets repealed, because all of a sudden Square, let's say Square, for instance, they're charging a flat 2.75%. Well, if check card transactions, which makes up maybe 50 to 60% of the total volume, if the cost of processing that goes up by, whatever, 50%, and they are at 2.75%, they're going to have to communicate to their client base about a major price increase. And that's a big problem for them, because the perception is that they're the Honest Abe of the industry, 2.75%, and so that's going to be a really big problem. A couple of other shockwaves you need to be thinking about is if you sell tier pricing. If you're not selling Interchange Plus, but you're selling tier pricing, that's okay, but keep in mind that your qualified check card rate, if you're on say 4-tier pricing or something, that's going to go up. If you're selling 3-tier pricing, your qualified rate for check and credit card combined, maybe right now it's at, some lower number, that's going to have to go up. And so just be aware of this. You definitely want to be talking to your processing company about it. The other thing that I think you should do is you should leverage this opportunity to do 2 things. I think number 1, you should communicate it to your merchants. Let your merchants know about this thing. Let them know, hey, this is happening. Print out the article I have on there and give it to them and say, hey, look at what's happening here, because this is going to affect them in a real way. I mean, their cost of processing credit card transactions are going to go up by as much as 20 or 30%, and that's a big deal. And so they need to know about it. They need to be aware of it. They may want to write their congressman or senator if they believe that the Durbin Amendment is good for them because it's lowering their costs. Or maybe they don't believe in regulation at all and they're like, that's fine, But either way, they should be aware of it, because you don't want to surprise them in, 12 to 18 months with this big price increase. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, I'm going to switch to somebody else. You want to make sure you're securing that portfolio and educating your clients on this. The other thing is to just be ready for it. These people that are currently with Square, these people that are currently with, PayPal, these, people that are currently with other companies that are all flat rate, there are things that you can probably do now. Maybe there are QuickBooks into it, Can you do something to maybe be ready to switch them to Interchange Plus when those big price increases come out? Make sure you're ready to make that move and bring those people on board with you. So I predicted the Durbin Amendment was going to go up, was going to be repealed rather in 2017, and it looks like that is exactly what is going to happen. And that was my first prediction. The second prediction that I made was that surcharging was going to become mainstream. Surcharging was going to become mainstream. Now, I want to preface this one for just a minute by talking about what surcharging is and address those of you that have maybe heard a little bit about it. Now, it is true that there's a lot of kind of crazy companies out there, maybe even disreputable companies out there that are doing some, unusual business practices with this area of surcharging. And as a result, many of you may have a negative perception of surcharging. And so I want to explain what it is so that you're more educated on what it actually does, not just how some of these companies are leveraging it, in many cases, not even according to the regulations and laws that are out there, right? So what is surcharging? Surcharging, quite simply, is charging the consumer to process the credit card transaction. And when you think about it, it actually does make a lot of sense in a certain context. In other words, why should the business owner pay when you use your credit card versus if you use cash, they don't have to pay anything? As a consumer, if you're the consumer walking into a store, you're the one making the decision about whether or not you want to use your credit card or cash, and that decision has a financial impact on the business. And they want to simply transfer that liability to you and say, hey, rather than us paying that, 2% or whatever, 3%, we're going to charge you 2 or 3% if you use your credit card. Okay? That's really all it is it's passing that on. Now, so that's what it is. There's a couple of really big problems with it right now, and I want to talk to you about that. Now, tomorrow I'm going to do a post specifically about surcharging, so make sure you take a look at that. We're going to go through some frequently asked questions there, but I'm going to talk to you just briefly about it right now. Surcharging is currently not allowed in all 50 states. There are processing companies who are doing it in all 50 states. Some of them are doing it legally by working with the Attorney General's office. Others are just not, and they're just throwing it out there and hoping for the best, hoping their merchants don't get caught or taken to court or whatever. It's kind of crazy. And so it's not allowed in all 50 states right now. There are 10 states where it's banned, and those 10 states include some of the biggest like New York, Florida, Texas, and California. And so that's really the biggest thing that surcharging has going against it right now. The other thing it has going against it is that if you are, imagine if you're a mom and pop pizza place and you start surcharging your customers. So on their receipt, they see, my pizza was $10, the sales tax was, 60 cents, and my credit card processing surcharge was 30 cents, and they see that. So there's going to be signage that has to be up and all these things. So is that enough to maybe make them go to Pizza Hut or go to Papa John's because they don't have a surcharge? So the biggest issue right now with it isn't so much that it's, morally wrong or something, but it's more about competition and is, a small business owner doing a surcharge right now, how much is that going to hurt their business? It really depends on the business, right? And it depends on their competitors. So what has to happen for it to go mainstream is that one of these, big box retailers has to roll it out and they have to do it. And that'll give all the small businesses cover that say, hey, all the big guys are doing it, we have to do it. So why hasn't that happened yet? Well, there's the two reasons it hasn't happened yet is number one, there hasn't been a huge motivation for it. It would make these big box, companies, big box retailers a ton of money if they surcharged, but it would give them really, really, really negative publicity. And all these consumer watchdog groups would go crazy and they would say, look at these greedy corporations that are now, not only are they making billions of dollars, but now they're passing the cost of credit card processing onto the consumer without lowering their prices, that kind of thing. And so it would be a big blowback on them. I think that where that's going to change is two things are going to happen. Number one, if the Durbin Amendment does get repealed and it costs Walmart an extra, $4 billion a year or whatever, it wouldn't be that much, but all the big box retailers combined probably. And so if it costs them tons and tons of money, they may use that as leverage and say, fine, you want to repeal the Durbin Amendment, charge us more money, we're just going to pass it right on to the consumer anyway. And so I think that could be the motivation that's necessary. But the second thing is they need to have cover, meaning that it needs to be like, like 10 different big box retailers are all getting together and rolling it out on the same day so that they're all part of the same negative story instead of singling one of them out. And then it would be worth it. So that's already happening. There's a lot of big associations of retailers that are already talking about surcharging. There's a court case that's going to come up in the Supreme Court in July, June or July, somewhere in there, that's going to be talking about should it be legal in all 50 states. So the building blocks are all coming together as I thought that they would, but the Durbin Amendment has to get repealed first, I think, to really make it mainstream and a few other things. But you should definitely be aware of surcharging. Don't judge it just on like, well, that sounds crazy. Well, a lot of things sounded crazy before they became mainstream. So check it out and make sure you're aware of it. Also, the other thing is make sure you educate your clients about surcharging as well. I don't necessarily think you have to offer surcharging yet. If you're a processor, I don't think you have to offer surcharging, but I think you definitely want to be on the path to offering surcharging just in case it does go mainstream. And understand that there are a ton of small little ISOs out there right now that are marketing surcharging, and the marketing message is killer. It's like, process transactions for $0, no more processing fees, we eliminate processing fees, process at 0%, this is catchy stuff. This is good marketing stuff. And what's happening is they're contacting your merchants, they're contacting your portfolio, they're contacting your agents and pitching them this. And so you need to be educating your clients, educating your agents about this, about surcharging. Where do you stand? Wherever you stand right now is fine. Maybe you're totally against it, okay? Just let them know why you're totally against it, right? Maybe you feel like it would hurt your customer, your merchants. They wouldn't be as competitive. Let them know you think they wouldn't be as competitive. Or maybe you do offer it and you have it available, but you're not really promoting it. Well, you should at least let your clients know, hey, in case you want to do surcharging, we offer it. So wherever you're at in this process of surcharging, take a serious look at it and communicate that to your merchants and to your agents, because you would be shocked. I talk to so many salespeople in the industry, how many of them have already heard about this and they're already looking for companies to sell it. And you need to be aware of this because it is going to impact your business right now if you're in one of the 40 states that offers it. And even if you're in one of the other 10 states, because again, there are a lot of companies that are working with the Attorney General's office to offer it under kind of a different name to get around the laws that don't allow it. So be aware of it. It's a big deal. Surcharging. Make sure you're checking that out. So that was my number 2 prediction, was that was going to go mainstream. And so far, it's definitely becoming mainstream in our industry in terms of talking about it. Merchants, it's not really mainstream yet, but it's getting there if a few building blocks will kind of come into place. My third prediction was that 2017 would be the year that you would start using the instant quote tool. You would start using our technology solution, whether you're an ISO, whether you're a processor, whether you're an individual rep. I believe that you'll start using the tool this year. And I want to talk to you about a few things we're doing. You're going to get a link very soon for a live event we're going to be doing in about a week to talk about some of these new things we're doing. Actually, a week from Friday is when we're planning on doing it. So I want to just take a minute to talk about what we've been doing, what I've been working on. I haven't been doing content for about a month, and there's a reason for that. It's because I've been working on some things. And here's what we're basically finalizing that we're going to be rolling out very, very soon. We've already rolled out everything I'm talking about to ISOs, like with our branded solution for processors. So first of all, we have our learning management system, which is now a branded solution. And so if you are a processor or an ISO, or you have a team of salespeople and you want them to get trained and you want them to be accountable for that training, we have the learning management system that just comes at no extra cost. It just comes right in with the instant quote tool that we have at instantquotetool.com. Second thing, surcharging. We are already ahead of that process, and we already have surcharging built in so that if you want to build a program based on surcharging, you can use our tool to create an instant proposal that shows that surcharging credit. So surcharging is really interesting because you cannot surcharge check cards or debit cards. So no matter what state you're in, whatever of the states, however you want to position it, as of right now, you would be on extremely shaky ground, kind of legally, to surcharge a check or credit or a check card or a debit card. You can only surcharge credit cards. Well, that means, first of all, on the technology side, your terminal has to be able to identify those transactions to add the surcharge. But from a proposal side, you have to have a proposal tool that also splits out those transactions to see what's eligible to be surcharged. So our tool, because we have this interchange algorithm where we build an interchange table for every single merchant that you're doing a proposal for, our algorithm does that anyway. So for us, we were able to implement this functionality fairly easily, and now we have a proposal that it's already done. It has the surcharging in there. So that's ready right now today. So if you want to check out and see, for instance, what's the difference on somebody if I surcharge them versus not? What's the savings difference? Because it's huge, like 70% different. You can run that right now going to instantquotetool.com and starting a free trial. We can help you set up a surcharge program in there so you can see what that does. The other thing that we're doing is now we have the full side-by-side comparison. And so that's a big change for us. So we had the instant quote tool, which we still have, which is an amazing process where you walk in, the merchant doesn't have a statement, or you can't get them to give you a statement. You just go in, you use this tool really quickly to grab their attention, to get them interested, give them an instant proposal right now. Hey, here you go. Here's your PDF proposal. Email it to them or whatever you want to do from the application, or show it to them on your phone with our mobile-friendly reporting and stuff. So we had that. Now we're adding to that with a whole other path where now you do your side-by-side comparison, and it's really intuitive. We have an algorithm running that as well so that it instantly is adding everything up and showing you what you're still missing. It's really, really nice so that when you do get the statement, maybe you go through instant quote first, then they give you the statement and you want to do a full side-by-side comparison. Now you're going to be able to basically get the statement, key in all the information, and do the full side-by-side and print out the proposal. So we have, that piece of it totally done. The other thing that we have is we now have the merchant-facing part of it, meaning that if you want to give your merchant an instant quote and have them go to a website to basically do an instant quote, if you're a brand or an ISO and you would like this, and you would like, hey, imagine if your merchants could just go to a website and click on get an instant quote, and without even talking to you, they could go through and answer just like 5 questions and get, here's how much money we could save you a year. Click here to get your email proposal, or click here to talk to an associate, or click here to fill out the online application. So we've reverse engineered our algorithm so that it's still very accurate when we work with a merchant directly, so they don't have to make any adjustments to it. They just put their information in as far as total volume, average ticket, choose their business type, put their total current fees in, and then we use that information to back into a really accurate savings estimate. So we have that piece as well. So stay tuned for that. I think you're going to be using it sometime in 2017. Might as well go ahead and jump in right now. So go to instantquotetool.com, sign up for a free 30-day trial, and then stay tuned. We're going to be sending out a link for a live event, probably going to be a week from Friday, and I'll be demoing and showing you all the really cool things that we have created for it. So, hey, thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was a little longer than usual, or if you're listening to the podcast. Those are my 3 predictions. Now, I made a 4th one about point of sale. I'll get back to that one later. I'm still watching to see what's going to happen with that, but those are 3 predictions that I think are already well on their way to coming true in 2017.